What's going on, friends and family? Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Every Day's a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey, guys, another great day, another great interview. I just like to start off how we usually do, thanking each and every one of you guys for checking out the show and continuing to share us out. And thank you so much, FeedSpot, for recognizing us as 2023 number 3 Best Veteran Podcast. Go check out FeedSpot. They have all kinds of reviews on podcasts and blogs. Really cool. And I was really shocked when I actually seen that I had got that. But anyhow, also, let's make sure we're doing our buddy checks out there. Make sure you guys are checking on your friends, your family, making sure they're all doing okay. Remember, there's a crisis lifeline. You can call this number and be discreet. It's 988, press 1. Make sure we're checking on our friends, our family, our loved ones, our battle buddies, whatever it may be, even if you think they're doing good. Sometimes we got to just go out there and check on our friends, and I know a lot of us talk about it. Just, it's we got to be about it too. You know what I mean? So go out there and make sure everybody's doing okay. All right. We won't keep our next guest any longer. I'm excited for my next guest. I found my next guest on TikTok. Good old TikTok is good for something here and there. And one thing I'm glad that it is good for is I've really been able to reconnect with a lot of great veterans, military members out there that are still out there trying to make a difference. Not only did they serve their country at one point in time, but now they're out there, trying to make a difference. And this is how I found him: is he's just very inspirational. His videos are really compelling, and he puts out some very great information, mental health, nutrition, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and introduce our next guest. My next guest served his country proud in the United States Army for 6 years as a 25B IT specialist. He has been married for 16 years and has 3 children. He grew up as a military brat with his mother, father, and uncles all serving in the military. The Army was all he knew. When he got out of the military, he began working for the Department of Justice. He hit his rock bottom a few years after that, addicted to porn and video games, and made a tremendous shift in his life, quitting cold turkey on everything. From there on, he has become a coach first in fitness, and then nutrition, then mindset, and then life coaching. He's now a life coach for Operation Dream Big, which is in the process of being converted to a nonprofit. His goal is to make sure that every veteran that comes to him has the resources that they need online to heal themselves emotionally and mentally and get the support that military didn't give them when they got out. Let's meet our next guest, James Arthur Stockley Jr.
Hey,
What's up,
how's it
man?
going, Brian?
Hey, man, I'm glad to have you here and excited to talk to you, bro. You are quite the motivator, and
Thank you, thank
yeah,
you.
I love your videos on TikTok, bro. And that's why I was like, I got to get this guy on, and I got to put you in touch with other people,
Oh yeah,
because and not even just from a veteran perspective, just from a mental health
yeah,
standpoint, man. You're
yep.
just you speak great stuff, bro, and it resonates really well with me. So
Thank
I'm really glad to have you on, and let's get to know all about you, bro. Let's get to know where you grew up, what made you choice. I kind of see that your
you. Yep,
family was probably Army, so
yep.
no one was ready to be a Marine yet, and that's understandable.
Yeah, that wasn't
Not
no.
everybody likes crayons, but um, we appreciate you. But let's learn all about you, man.
Sounds good, man. So first off, name is Lewis, and for me, yeah, I grew up as a military brat. Like my biological father was Army. My stepdad was an Army recruiter. My mom was Army. Every
You were
single
just
person
destined.
was Army. The people I looked up to growing up were Army. Like my uncle, who retired Sergeant Major now, he was Army, and he used to come by and pick me up in uniform and stuff. And I was just like, wow, this dude's like the coolest shit ever. So I had that impression of the Army, like it would be just amazing to join. And I knew in the back of my mind I was going to join. Even at 17 years old, when I was trying to go through college, I tried it for a semester, right? And I was like, can't do it. I just can't do it, man.
Yeah,
It
that's
just
rough.
doesn't work for me. So I went back home before that semester ended. I told my mom straight up that I don't intend to live with you anymore. I need to get independent, and I'm going to go join the army. She was like, okay, we'll do it. And from there, to give you a picture of me and who I was as a kid and am, I struggled with ADHD, with social anxiety. I am 5'9", and back then I was 115 soaking wet. That was the weight that I was carrying around. I was a long distance runner in high school, so I was the smallest guy you can ever imagine signing up to go into the army and do this big feat, do this great thing there. But I ended up signing up. And one of the first pivotal experiences I had from the Army was before I even officially joined. It was with a recruiter. And I'll never forget this guy because I knew he had the 75th Ranger tab on, all that good stuff, right? He was a high speed guy. And he was like 6'2", so I'd be looking up at him like that whenever I met with him. And I had a history back then of driving illegally, street racing, things like that. I would build cars with my friends and race for money. That's exactly what I did. So at 17 years old,
Oh,
had
Fast and Furious there, huh?
yep, I had that movie. I don't know what it did to me, but
Inspired you, man.
it came out. I was like, okay, that's how I live anyway. But
I'm the next Vin Diesel, baby.
yep, yep. But I had not one, not two, but four reckless driving tickets at
Oh
the
my
age of
gosh.
17. They were
Dang,
coming
dude.
for my head. And I signed up and I did the ASVAB and everything. I scored really high. I've always been naturally smart at book stuff. I'm very, very book smart. And so I guess that's what got the recruiter's attention. And he said, I'm going to take a bet on this kid and see what he can do. So I got in shape with him. He actually put on his Class A dress uniform, walks me into the courthouse with these four reckless driving tickets, and the judge is ready to throw the gavel at me and says, this young man wants to join the U.S. Army. And so, what can we do? Can you reduce the fines? Can you help him out here? And the judge said, okay, in light of that, it looks like he's serious. I'm going to reduce the fines. And if he can pay those, I'm not going to penalize him at all. We'll take his license, of course, which they did. I spent my first 2 years in the Army with no driver's license, just walking
Oh
around.
man, you were that guy like trying to
Yep,
ask for a
huffing
ride,
and
huh?
ride, using public transportation because I got stationed in Germany. Luckily, they got a lot of public transportation there.
Right.
But yeah, they took my license. I was broke. I grew up broke. I didn't come from money or privilege or anything. My mother became a single mother when I was in high school when my stepdad unexpectedly packed up his shit and decided, okay, I'm gonna leave. And I remember that too. He was buying a house the month before. He was looking online, buying a house, and then the next month he was gone. But that put us in this place where my mom worked two jobs and I picked up a job after high school. I worked night shift at McDonald's, and I would give her all the paychecks all the way up till I left for the
Wow.
Army. And so I come from all that, no money. I'm like, I have no way I'm gonna pay these tickets at all. And that feeling you get when you get pulled over or when you shit hits the fan. We're at that court area where they collect the money, and I'm like, dude, I don't have any way to pay this. He's like, don't worry. Pulls out this card. He's like, we already discussed it. We're gonna pay these fines for you. We really want to
Ah,
see you.
what a blessing. Dang.
So if it wasn't for that man, wherever he is, man, I would not be in the military. I wouldn't have had all the great experiences and the rough experiences that I had. You know,
Definitely a point in your life where it could have went a different way, right?
exactly. That's the key. Every turning point in my life has always been two different decisions, which we'll get into like the biggest ones later. But yeah, it's always been it can go sideways or I can keep moving forward. And there's just been somebody there at that step of the way that helped me to move forward. Because if he
Kind of
hadn't been,
pointing you to that road and say, go down this road,
yep.
huh?
Yep. So long story short, from that point on, I signed on the dotted line and I was inspired. I shipped out maybe even like a couple months later. I went to MEPS down there in Virginia. I was at Fort Gordon and Fort Jackson for the advanced training later. And in basic training is where I developed a mindset piece that I still carry with me to this day, because on week 2, and me being a guy who runs track, you would think running is my thing, right? We go over to Fort Gordon, and what happened there is they have this piece where you do PT, right? And no, it's not Fort Gordon, it's Fort Jackson. We went there, and they have this run we do. It's a 3-mile run, and I called them the Hills of Hell. I don't know what everybody else's name for them is. But halfway through this run, you get to the base of what you seems like a freaking mountain, right? And you climb the first hill of this. It's all paved with rock and stuff like that.
Mm.
And you're running in formation, right? So we run in formation. We get up the first part of this hill. The first time I ran this, it nearly destroyed me, because I thought, okay, I made it over the hill. I'm good to go. It's downhill from here. No, the real hill starts after that. It levels out, gives you this false sense of security. Then you are going up and you are climbing the real hill. Your knees, your lungs are burning, your legs are dying, everything like that. So I did that a couple times. Lots of people would fall out of formation and go to the back and end up having to walk up that. I made it through each time, just gritting my teeth. On the third time, this was in week 2 of basic training, I make it up the first hill. I start the second hill. I feel a pop somewhere up here in my quad area, all that area, and immediate, massive, just tremendous pain. And from that point on, it already hit me, because they already told you from the beginning, if you have a major medical issue, what's going to happen? They're going to send your ass right back home with nothing. And I'm like, I can't go back home. I know what the guys back home are doing right now, and it's nothing good. And I know I'll be doing the same thing. I know me and my mother, I love her to death, but we didn't get along that well at all. So I'm like, me sitting in the house with my mom, that's going to be destructive as well. So I'm like, I have 2 choices here. I can give up right now and say, send me the sick call, or I can ranger on through this and just keep going. And so I let myself fall to the back of the formation, and I picked up a jog, and I just kept going through the massive amount of pain. And so that was the rest of my basic training. Every exercise we did, all the things,
Mm.
the gas chamber, the gavel, the unarmed combat, all that stuff. I'm doing that with this injury that's just massively painful. And after a while, after I would keep moving, I'd get used to the pain, or adrenaline would take over something. And so it would feel fine until I stopped for the night. And then the
Mm-hmm.
pain comes right on back, and you're in tears and everything. And so, but through all of that, I learned what happens if you just keep going. If you have in your mind what your intention is, my intention was not to go home, it was to go forward. And I just stuck with that. I would stretch it as much as I could. I would keep going. And then probably about 8 weeks later, I would say it just hardened over. So I had a little bit of a limp, but I was able to run and do whatever I needed to do. No problems at all.
Shit.
But so that was
Sounds like a service
my,
connected deal right there, bro.
yep. Well, it would be, but that's what I'm getting to, is the other part. The other part of the service that was ingrained into me that was negative was, don't go to sick call. Because that
Mm.
also formed in my head.
Right.
Now, from that point forward, if I go to sick call, there's a chance I could go home. I could get sent away from all this opportunity. So I literally would get different things happen, and I would never report to sick call for it unless my NCOs, my bosses, would just tell me, go to sick call. Like I had to get my wisdom teeth pulled. It was like, no, you're going. Go get your wisdom teeth pulled. You're going to get that taken care of. He had to drive me there himself just to make sure I went. But so I got my stubborn mindset, the good side and the bad side from it. And so after that, I get stationed in Germany. I went through advanced training in Fort Gordon, Georgia. And then we got our whole class, which was huge. It was like 60, 70 people in that area. They split it in half and said half of y'all are going to go to Fort Campbell. You're probably going to deploy every other year. And the other half of you are going to go to Germany. And those units are literally going to come. We're going to line you up. And they're just going to pick, like they're picking for a sports team, and pick which privates are going to come over to our unit. Yeah, so that's the organization that the Army had back then. And so I luckily got picked to go to Germany, which was amazing because I forgot to mention I was born in Germany. I was born and lived there for a year before, my parents got transferred to another duty station. But
Oh, wow.
I was born there in Germany, and I'd
That's
always wanted
crazy.
to
That's
go
kind of
back.
a crazy how a full
Yeah,
circle, bro.
yep,
Like, yeah.
right back around. And it gets even crazier because that's where I met my wife too.
Oh, no shit.
My wife
Damn.
is German. My wife is
Oh,
German.
really? Wow.
And
Okay.
so, and keep in mind through all of this, I'm a 17-year-old kid. Like I have
Damn. Yeah.
zero life experience. This is my life experience now. This is what raised me into an adult is the military. So I had a lot of different triumphs, different issues along the way. And thankfully I just had a couple good mentors. I had some bad ones as well, but the good ones came early on. One instance was in Germany. I'd never been clubbing, I'd never partied or anything like that. Back in high school, my deal was work this night shift, bring my mom this money, and hang with the couple friends that I did have that would help me chill and everything like that. And they would do stuff like smoke weed and all those things. But to me, I just naturally stayed away from it. I don't know why, because I was around it all the time. But to me, I would just play video games with them. That's what I would do: pick up the controller and play games with them. That was my medicine. And so in Germany, I didn't know anything about going out. My plan was just to hang out in my room. That's what I was gonna do: hang out in my room. I was still
Buy a
sending.
PlayStation or something.
Yep, exactly
Shit.
what I did. That was the first thing I bought
Oh,
when I
I
got.
already know, bro. I
Yeah.
had one in my wall locker.
Yep.
Believe that.
I bought me one of those old Xboxes and all that. Bought a TV. I had the little issue desk, the little bed in the back. That was my room. I would work these 12-hour shifts because we were in a security center we managed the entire network for that side of Europe. So all of Europe, whatever military forces they were talking and communicating and doing that, we were the ones monitoring it 24/7 in 12-hour
Wow.
shifts. So that's what I did, just brutal 12-hour shifts. And
Mm.
we'd see all sorts of crazy stuff
Going through
happen.
this like data and stuff like that, just
Like
constantly
bunch
looking at
of
a screen for 12
lots
hours,
of
bro.
data, lots of China's trying to break into us here and that, all
Right.
sorts of crazy
Damn.
stuff. And they
Yeah.
talk about that, but I'm like, way back when I was in, that's when they were first doing all that, trying to get in and mess with our stuff. And so we were in charge of taking care of that. And I stayed there in Germany for 3 years. But early on at 17 years old, I don't go out. I get this roommate who is like 25 years old. He has life experience. And so he became kind of like a pseudo mentor to me because he didn't have that really good habits, but he had lots of charisma and things like that. So
Right.
I really took to him and I wanted to learn what he had to teach. So my first night there, he's like, "We should go to the club." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't have any money. First off, I'm sending all my money back home. I don't have any clue how to get there. None of that." He's like, "Oh, come on, let's go. We're gonna go out." And I'm glad he got me to go out because that first night is when I met my wife.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so I get dressed up. We go to this giant club called the Downtown in Germany. It's got like 4 different rooms and a fountain in the middle. It was like, wow, I'm like this kid from the country, like, wow, this is crazy here. And I go, we get separated. He's walking around doing his thing, and I go on the dance floor, and my wife is there wearing a white dress of all things, and she's looking good and everything.
You were
So I
able to spot her
dance.
out, probably like wearing that
Yep.
white dress too. You're
Hmm.
like, mm.
Yep. As much as you can, because there, even though I'm 17, you can still drink at a younger age. So I
Right.
was,
Yeah. Germany is
so that's
definitely
my
different.
first
It was
time drinking
16 or
alcohol.
something, I think, in
Yep.
Germany.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
drink. You can drink like beer and the lighter liquors at that age, and then at 21, you can get to the hard liquor. But they
Oh,
didn't really check at the club anyway, so it didn't matter what age you were. They would just give you what drink you ordered. So I go up to my wife. I started dancing with her, and while we're dancing on the dance floor, this giant chick in high heels, she's probably walking around 200 pounds maybe, and she's just grooving on the dance floor. She steps the back end of that heel onto my wife's big toe
oh,
and just just obliterates it.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
she is in extreme pain, and I picked her up, carried her off the dance floor. We spent the rest of the night just sitting on that fountain I talked about,
You
talking.
were her hero now, bro.
But, well, not you'll see. I wasn't much of a hero after that though,
Oh,
because
okay, okay, all right.
she gave me after that night. She gave me her phone number, fully expecting me to call. But I've thought about it numerous times, and I knew I wasn't ready for a serious relationship. I'm like, I'm 17, barely ever had a girlfriend or experiences with women. I'm like, I am not, and I knew she was looking for something serious, and I was like, I don't think I can do that right now. So I just didn't call her at all.
Now, was there any kind of language barrier, or did
No,
she
that's the
speak
thing
pretty
about
fluent
Germany is they learn basic English,
English? Right.
and then a lot of German women, they watch American movies or they'll hang around Americans that come off of the bases and stuff. So they learn the language, they pick it up very quickly, and so she knew how to speak English very well, and so there was no real issue with language barrier for us at all. So I
That's good.
didn't call. We had MySpace back.
Oop, we lost him. I think he'll be right back. Yep, here he is. All
Okay.
right. No, we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Nope, nope.
So basically, I didn't call her, but she found me on that social media site called MySpace, and we just began to talk and check in on each
Good
other
old
as
MySpace.
friends. We would run into each other over the next year in the club. Sometimes she would be with one person, I would be with another. And at some point during the end of that year, I was like, man, I'm tired of messing around and getting screwed over. And I'm like, I need something serious now. And I'm lying there one night, I'm thinking, and she's the first person that pops into my head. So immediately I called her up and I said, I'd like to come over. I came up with a stupid excuse to him, like, I'll come over and help you paint your walls. So she's like, sure, come on over. And I come over, and the rest is history. She had a 3-year-old son. He became my stepson after that. And later on, I adopted him under my own name and everything like that.
Oh,
Now
sweet.
he's 19. It's just crazy.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. So, I had amazing experiences like that. And I had other experiences as well.
Sorry. Now, did you have any issues getting marrying her and getting her to like because being that she's German and
Hmm.
you're U.S. citizen? I mean, was there any kind of problems with that, especially even with the army?
Yeah, there was a lot of red tape back then.
Yeah.
And but we navigated it well. We just went to the right people. They told us what to do, and we just did the best we could. We got married in a German church there. All of her family was there, mine wasn't. And we got the German marriage license. We brought that. And we went through the whole process of registering her as my wife, with the unit and everything like that. And then we had to go deal with the embassy side of things too, and that was just a huge headache. A lot of red tape there. They do everything. They do criminal checks on her. They did fingerprinting, all that stuff. They were like, they left no stone unturned. And she had a rough childhood as well. So, it took a lot to make that happen. But, thankfully, after those 3 years in Germany were over, the whole process was pretty much done. And we were able to fly into Atlanta, and she got her green card and got all that stuff going. But that was crazy. And again, like
Quite
I'm
the
a young
process.
kid trying to
Yeah.
figure out all this stuff. But I think the biggest thing that drove me to all of this to try to be a good man, a husband, and a good father to that stepson. I never even thought of him as my stepson. He was just my son. All of those things was because when my dad left, I was like, no, I can't do it like this. I'm not gonna be like that anymore. Because that wasn't the only thing that would happen with my stepdad. He was the type that he had his biological daughter, my younger sister, who was 4 years younger than me, and he would treat her like the air she walked on was just blessed,
Mm.
right? And for me, it was like I couldn't do right at any point, and all the work, all the chores, all the responsibility, it's on you. And any family members of him that came over, that extended to them as well. So I was always less than all the time. And I just grew up saying I'm never going to do that to any of my kids or anything like that. And I think that's what drove me to mature at such a young age and get through all those challenges me and my wife faced in the beginning, you know? So a big, well, I guess one big incident that happened for me in Germany, fresh off the plane, is I had met a girl in the advanced training, and she said, "I'm stationed over here, 5 hours away. Why don't you come visit for a weekend?" And I'm like, "Okay, I have no money. I've got this cheap, dinky cell phone. I've never really traversed anything except that first time I went to the club. You know, I know I got to report in for PT at like 5 a.m. on Monday. So as long as I make it back by then, I'm good, right? As long as I get to her, I'm good." So I took the dollars that I had in my pocket. I hop on this train with my cell phone and stuff. And I go meet her. We have a good time. She shows me around her base and stuff like that. I did not think to plan or look at the the schedules, none of that stuff. So she gets me on a taxi on Sunday evening. I get to the train station. I'm like, cool. I'm going to get on the train, head back. I'll be there ready for formation on Monday. No trouble at all, right? The train stopped running at 6 p.m. on Sunday, and they don't crank back up until Monday morning. So I get to an empty train station. And as I walk into this place, they're cutting off the lights and stuff like that. So 17 years old, in a train station in Germany, don't speak the language, dinky cell phone is out of power. And I have no way to call anybody, don't have the money to use a payphone. I am just up shit's creek right now.
Oh man.
I slept in this train station on a park bench that smelled like piss. The lights were getting cut off, so it felt like I was in a haunted museum or something like
Oh
that. I
shit.
get up in the morning, I hop on the train, which woke me up as it was pulling in, and I get to formation at 9 a.m. My NCO, who I still talk to this day, he he tore me up left and
Mm.
right, yelled at me, gave me the business, had me signing counseling statements, had me writing essays. He did everything. He went through all of it. And I'm so grateful that he did that, because I was sitting there at that age like, why in the world is he so mad about this? And I realized like this dude actually cares about his soldiers. He actually cares about his soldiers. So that was my first introduction to like a real father figure. Like this dude would always make sure I was ready for formation, always teaching, always making sure the two people that was under him, me and another person, were squared away, making safe decisions and stuff like that. And he's a great dude, and I hated him for a while for doing that. But then, you know, as you get older, you kind of realize, man, if he hadn't done that, who knows what choices I would have made going forward from there. Great guy that I still talk to. Him and his wife just adopt kids. They adopt
Mm.
kids. They have 10
Wow.
kids living in their house, all adopted. And
Wow.
that's what he does. He
10.
takes care of people. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Wow,
And
that's
some of
great.
them have already grown, gone to college, or living productive, full lives. So amazing gentlemen that I'm glad to have met along the way.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, so that was my pivotal points really in the military. I joined up, got to Germany, spent 3 years there, met my wife, had my first child there as well. So I had my stepson and then my first child. My daughter was born there in Heidelberg, Germany. Then we get back, we get stationed at Fort Campbell. Remember, they split people off and sent them to Campbell. We get split finally, and I get sent to Campbell. And 2 months after I get there, we get set up to deploy. So that was my first actual real deployment in my entire 6 years there. Because before that, it was just I was in a command unit and it was small deployments to different areas where they needed to set stuff up and things like that, but never in the sandbox yet, right? So that time I got deployed to Afghanistan, and that really tested us. I saw some things, as you probably can relate. You saw some things you shouldn't see, experienced stuff you didn't want to experience, and that shifted my mentality and persona there. That's where some things in my head kind of broke. They went awry, right? Because I didn't come back the same guy that I was before. And I knew probably after about 4 or 5 years in, I knew from talking to civilians in Germany that were government workers and stuff, I knew I was going to try to get out and be a government worker. So even with everything I was dealing with, I managed to get my first college degree through that year I was deployed out there. So I would get off my shifts, which could be like 13, 14 hours, get on the computer, knock out my assignments, rack out, talk to my roommate or whatever. And that was my pattern for the whole year, you know, even with the attacks happening and stuff like that. We were an aviation unit. So I'd say we were kind of better off than most because wherever we needed to go, we could fly on the Blackhawks and things like that. And our station where we were located, our fob was just surrounded by like desert, flat desert, and then you have mountains, right? So if they wanted to come attack us, they have to come over the mountain to get within range to launch mortars and do anything they wanted to do. So if with their quick reaction and stuff like that, it cut down on a lot of stuff, but you know, they still find ways. So
Yeah.
so that was my deployment. And after that, I get back. They stop lost us as
What was
well.
your time frame? What was your time frame when you were in?
Deploy
Just
2010 to 2011. And
okay.
then I got into the Army at 2005, January.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. And so they stop lost us and kept us there a couple months longer because I knew at that point I was going to get out. One of the things I'd experienced was I really wanted I had those great mentors, right? And I wanted to get to that NCO level and be a mentor as well. I did everything that was asked. I had the high PT score that the Army uses to promote you, studied everything I needed to study, aced the military board that where they have the panel of people interviewing you for that. And because of the simple excuse that there was just too many people in that next rank, I was held in the E4 rank for 2 years. For 2 years past where I should have been promoted. And then we get deployed, we're dealing with all that rough stuff. And there they say, let's check you out and see if we can promote you now. And at that point, I was already in the mindset of it's time for me to get out. I thought I'm ready to get out, you know. And so they send me to the board. I go in front of a sergeant major who she was like a ball buster, right? And you know, people don't usually say their mind to her. And I said, you know, this doesn't matter to me that much because I'm getting out anyway. And I just braced for impact. I was like, she's probably gonna chew my ass out in front of all these people. But she was like, okay, just go on out. We'll discuss it later. Just come to my office later and we'll talk. And I was shocked because she was like, do you have a plan for when you get out? That was her question. She was literally, like I said, I was blessed to run into a lot of good people like that. And I said, you know, the plan is this, to finish up the degree, get this job in some government agency somewhere, and just, that's it. And she was like, okay, as long as you have a plan, you know, that's fine. We're not going to force you to do this board if you don't want to. We understand. And that's where I left it, you know. So after that, I get home. I spend some time, you know, with the unit, just out processing and stuff like that. And then I get out. And that's the part where the veteran thing to me, it got the idea of being a veteran, it got this negative connotation because of the experiences I had after I got out. And I knew I wanted to get out as well, but I didn't realize what I was going to lose when I got out. The brotherhood, the sisters, all that stuff that I could lean on, the structure. When I got out, that's when I realized, oh man, I lost all of that stuff. And so I get out with my wife, who is pregnant with my third child, my son, and she's at the point where she's needing to do appointments and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm in this new civilian world. I got a little bit of terminal leave left, so we're still getting paid by the Army, but I got to find a job quick. I got to find insurance quick because all that stuff is about to go out. And so in that mode, I start calling and I find the guy that says, hey, I'm a veteran. You need insurance for your wife. She's pregnant. Oh, I'll help you, you know? And so he goes to this place where he says, okay, this was through phone and online and stuff like that. He's like, so here's the plan, you know, and he gives me this giant brochure that, you know, as a military guy, we're not going to read through all that shit. And he knew it too. He gives me all that fine print and says, you know, it'll be a couple grand. It'll be thousands of dollars. And we'll get this plan set up so that when she goes to her appointment, she hands him this card. She's going to be good to go. We buy in. Me and my wife buy in on this, right? We get the card. We go to do one of her OB appointments, first one out of the military. She's scared, wanting to make sure everything's good because she's a high risk pregnancy, right? And we walk in, we finish the appointment, ultrasound, we're all happy and stuff like that, got the pictures, all that. Hand them the card, and the clerk looks at us with that look, like something's wrong here. She goes, takes the card to the back office, talks to her supervisor, says, come over to this office, let's sit down and talk. And she says, where'd you get this insurance? And I said, from so and so. And she said, it doesn't cover anything. Nothing is covered. It doesn't cover the birth of your child, doesn't cover the appointments. And so because of that, we have to get this invoice together for you. This is what it's going to cost to have your kid, to finish up all the appointments that are needed up until then. It was like 20 to 25 grand. 20 to 25
Gosh,
grand. The insurance didn't cover anything. And so I was crushed. I was like,
bro.
wow.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I can't believe it. My wife walks out of there with me in tears. That was like a terrible situation to go through that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And so from that point forward, that framed me to be ashamed to be a veteran because of that experience. So I even denied it. I wouldn't even say that I was on the military. I wouldn't put it on job applications. I would do all that stuff because of the experiences I had like that. Because we had a couple other ones too. Like Fort
Got burned a
Campbell, we
couple
bought a
times.
house. We bought a house there. And we had to leave for my next job because I had finally gotten one 6 months later with a good government agency in DC. And we just couldn't sell the house fast enough. So we looked for a property manager. We go with the guy that has a sergeant major symbol over his business. And he said, and I call him up and he says, oh, you were in the Army. Cool. I was a retired sergeant major. You same deal. I'm a veteran. You can trust me. I'm going to do what's right by you. And he says, okay, I'm going to put my son on your property so that while you guys are packed up and moving, because you got to start work, we'll take care of the house and make sure we put somebody reputable in there. This guy, long story short, puts a convicted convict, and
Oh
his
my
girlfriend
gosh.
into the house. They proceed to trash this nice house, first house I ever owned. And I had to go walk through walls to get us this house because when we first got to Fort Campbell, they didn't have temporary housing for us. So our choice was to continue to live in a temporary hotel. Me, my wife, my pregnant wife, 2 kids, and our 2 dogs that we brought with us living in this tiny ass hotel room. And the
Man.
unit didn't care at all enough to try to find us temporary housing. So I had to think outside of the box. This young guy, never done this before, didn't even know what credit was. And I figured out how to do a VA loan, how to clean up my credit, how to buy a house in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I managed to do everything necessary to buy us our first house. And that's where we ended up staying when we got sent to the US, was at that house. So like I had so many weird experiences where at my age, I had to mature and solve the problems and just figure things out. And as I kept going, I felt ashamed to be the veteran. I joined this agency in the Department of Justice. And the reason I joined was because of an Air Force guy, a retired Air Force guy. His name was Jerome. He looked over all the resumes. I was in a list of 10 guys vying for this lucrative job in IT. And he sees Army on there and he's like, oh my God, this dude has done so much high speed stuff. He goes to his boss who makes the hiring decision and says, nope, get all these out of here. This is the guy you want right here. You need to bring him up. They paid the ticket while I was still in Tennessee, flew me up to meet everybody, to interview and to just sell me basically on taking the job. And I get this job and I'm just working with 5 guys supporting like 700 people on a network. And all these guys are prior military except for one. So I'm like, okay, I found my people again. This is a great place to be. And so that begins my career in the government. I spent 12 years there. But throughout that process, I started to be okay with being a veteran again, but I had so many mental health issues that I was battling. But I became the highest level executive in that agency. I reached GS 14 in that
Oh damn.
IT spectrum at the age of 25. So at
Wow.
25 years old, I was a GS 14. senior level administrator and things like that. But on paper, I'm good, making money, doing all that stuff. But the inside of me is just distraught. So I ran to video games and porn to deal with all the stress, deal with all that stuff. And what I would do is I would play video games to no end. I would ignore my family, ignore my kids, ignore my responsibilities as it started to build up. And you would just picture me in a dark room with a big screen playing on a video game controller. Then I put it on the computer and would play there. Then I couldn't get enough, so I put it on my phone too. Then I would play at work as well. It just creeped into every area of my life and took over. And it didn't seem like a problem to me that I was disconnected and everything like that. I'm like, I feel stressed. I feel bad. I got anxiety. I got depression. I got PTSD. I'm going to just take all that. Whenever the bad feelings come, I'll just pick up a controller. That feels good. There's a community there. I can just achieve something real quick and feel good. And I was functional as well. So even though I would play games at work, everything would be taken care of. I revolutionized the whole network they had there. I took them off Blackberries and put them on new iPhones and just ran that whole program for them. They had no clue how to even start doing that. So I was getting awards and accolades and money. I'm like, okay, I'm getting all this stuff.
So you're
Nothing's wrong.
good. Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah, nothing's
Yeah.
wrong. So, but then I'm like, at a certain point, I achieved the GS14. I get that. And I'm like, what's next? That's the question that creeped into the back of my mind. What's next? And I didn't have an answer to that. I didn't know what was next. I was like, when I get this, when I get there, then I'm going to feel good. I got there and I felt like shit still. So
Mm.
the only thing I could think to do is to play more games, put more money into it, keep trying to mix it up. Some people will play a game and just beat the game. I will play it up until you're about to beat it. And just to keep the experience, I will end it and start over again, just to keep the rush going. That's how crazy my head was working with just trying
Mm.
to stay poured into this. And so there were times where I would just be playing games and my wife would sit next to me there, basically wanting some attention, deserving that love and that care. And I'm just not there to give it to her. I'm just on my games. And that's how I spent so many years until age 30. Age 30 was where I hit rock bottom because, when you're stuck in an addiction, when you're stuck in a problem, which is what I discovered working with people, in the back of your mind something's wrong. The decisions you're making aren't good. And so I began to spend extravagant amounts of money on these games, thousands of dollars going to video games, dude, and hiding it from my wife. And so it all came crashing down one day when she found those expenditures. And she was absolutely shocked at how much of that money that should go to bills and stuff like that is going to these video games. And rightfully so, she said, enough is enough. You need to go. And so that day, she had me pack up a duffel bag and stuff and said, go, pack up in your car and head out.
Wow.
And so I packed up, got in my car. I went to a motel like 40 minutes away from there. And I'm sitting in this motel room thinking about all my choices for an hour, as addicts will do when they hit rock bottom. You got all the flashbacks going on of all the stuff that you dealt with and how you've been handling things going forward. And I realized, I have two choices. Remember, two choices to make here. I can keep going the way I have been, go play more video games, maybe go move into my mom's basement, just be a defunct gamer and lose my wife, lose my kids, lose my life and things like that. Because my mental health is shit. And when this stays that way long enough, the next choice is obvious. I don't want to be around anymore. I was
Yeah.
approaching that. And so I made the choice to say, no, I'm going to go the opposite painful direction and I'm going to quit cold turkey. So I called my wife after an hour. That was all it took. Me getting kicked out in a hotel room overnight for an hour to say, okay, I'm going to change things and I'm going to do whatever is necessary to make this happen. I went home the next day, took out the consoles, games, sold whatever I could sell, threw away whatever I could throw away, and deleted everything off the phone, deleted everything off the computer, did everything I could to make it really hard to get those games back, right? Make it difficult to get sucked back in. And then I sat down with a therapist, talked about the addiction, and she clued me into the deal that I'm just running from all my stress and pain by picking up these fucking games, going into this porn and stuff like that. And and I knew everything I was doing was wrong because I was always trying to hide it. And I felt ashamed when my kids would come in and I'm playing games. I would always feel this guilt and this shame because deep down I knew I should be spending that time with them, you know. I wouldn't even
Right.
let them play the games with me. And
Yeah.
so I hit that rock bottom. I talk with the therapist, I go through that process. And then I started thinking, like, when I was deployed, when did I feel the best? When did I feel great? And I was like, when I was working out with my brothers, like as a unit, we didn't have like PT per se there, but we had a nice gym. We had a nice little sandbox gym, and they would do P90X. I don't know if you remember that
Oh
workout.
yeah. I definitely did some
I was like,
P90X, bro.
yep, yep, we did P90X. We did P90X on that deployment. So I was like, let me see if I can find that again. I get on the computer immediately, like, okay, yeah, let's do that. I start doing P90X. All I had in my basement at the time was some push-up bars, a little pull-up bar that my wife had got me for Christmas that I never used, and like a chair. That was it. So I'm like, okay, what can I do with this stuff? So I'm doing the P90X workouts. I'm like, this feels good. I'm getting up every morning doing that. Then I find out about YouTube. I'm like, I really would like to learn from somebody, but I have no clue where I'm going to find that. So I start getting into YouTube and I'm like, all this is for free? Like I can find workouts for free and stuff on here. So I start doing P90X. I go through it 2 times before it becomes too easy because I realized along the way, fitness is just a natural gift for me. It just feels really good to push my body to the limit. So I got there really fast. Then I took P90X and Insanity. I don't know if you remember Insanity.
Yeah.
I
That's
took
yeah.
those two and I put them together and made this super workout. Did
Oh
that a couple
damn.
times. Got in massively good shape doing that. And then I was still like, what's next? You know, still stuck in that. But you know, I started to just progress from there. And as I'm doing all of that, I start listening to motivational content. I start reading books. I'm still working at the Department of Justice. I get up at 3 a.m. just to make sure I can do those things before I have to get on the bus at 5 to be at work all day and come home. So I was dedicated. Then I started tackling all the projects I ignored. I just took the ADHD that I have and grew up with and just started learning how to focus it on those things and take all that energy and do things with it. But the biggest pivotal moment for me, that I would say helped me climb up from rock bottom and just stay up is when I got the opportunity to help my first veteran. Because there was a buddy of mine, which actually was a friend of my wife. She knew him from when she lived in Germany. He was stationed there as an MP. He'd been an MP for 10 years, deployed every other year. Every other year for 10 years, this man
Gosh,
was
yeah.
on deployments. And then he gets out, and like I said, the military doesn't take care of you, doesn't support you. So he had a shit ton of issues. He was living in New York. We were down there in Maryland. My wife and I discussed it, and we were like, he's telling us his life is going to shit up there, and he's over it. So we say, come with us for November, December, maybe January of this year, and just live with us. We got an extra room right here. You can be around us. It's a safe space. You know us. We'll help you out, you know? And then when you're ready, you can go back and resume your life. And that's what he did. He came, stayed with us. He was probably 260 pounds, overweight, depressed, all the mental health issues. And I had no intentions of changing his life like I would end up doing. I was just getting up every morning, doing my workouts, listening to my content, just charging through my day and sprinkling little things in to help myself heal and get better. And one morning at 3 a.m., I come down there and he's down there waiting for me. He's like, so what are you up to, man? I'm like, yeah, I'm just doing the workout. So he sits there for a while, watches me working out. A couple of days later, he says, I want to work out too. So imagine this big 270-pound guy climbing up on this dinky little pull-up bar I got in the basement. And it's just bending and screaming
He's
bloody
like, bro,
murder
is this fool gonna fall down?
as he tries to learn to do his first pull-ups. Guys, he'd never
Wow.
done pull-ups before. And so I just naturally coached him through working out and training and all that stuff. And then we started talking. We started listening to motivational content. And through those conversations, he was like, I really would like to serve again in the police force. He wanted to go into the police academy. So we said, let's set that as a goal. You know, I'm learning and working on my goals. Let's set that as your one goal, to be in the police academy. So we continue to train. He eats better. He follows what I'm doing. I remember there's this one time early in the morning, it's dark as hell. And that street we lived on was called Willow Lane. It's just this 2-lane road. All the houses are only on the left side of it. The other side is forest. So we would do wind sprints up and down that road as part of our training routine. And I just remember just running with him, motivating him, like, come on, fucking speed up. You got this. One more mailbox, all that stuff. And I just realized along the way, I love this. You know, it feels really good to help this guy out. Long story short, you know, by January, he went down to 200 pounds. He dropped from 260 to 200. He tried to get into the police academy and was fit and ready. But because of the mental health issues on his record, they said, no, you know, we just don't feel comfortable bringing you in, as our veterans run into. But it didn't stop him, because he learned everything I taught him, and he just kept going with it. And he started taking on security jobs and things like that. And to this day, he has a daughter now. He's a single father, you know, and he's doing well. He's keeping himself mentally in check and doing amazing. And I love the fact that I was the person that helped him do that without realizing it. So from there, you know, I was like, how can I help more people? So I started posting on Instagram. And if you go to my Instagram, you could probably see it if you scroll down, where I first posted myself struggling to do push-ups and pull-ups and things on there. And then I found a community around the exercises I like to do, calisthenics, you know, and I realized, oh, there's athletes that do this, there's stuff like that. So I really started working out to the max and getting in high shape, because my goal was to become an athlete. But people started to come around looking for me to teach them how to work out and get in shape, because they just wanted to look good or whatever. So I started helping different people, not just veterans. One of the people I helped was my sister. She had so much trouble struggling with her weight and stuff like that. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, I'll put together these workouts and I'll help you. And by the time she was done with all the workouts and stuff, I realized that the next step for anybody is to have a dream or a big goal so that they can stay there. Because I'm like, okay, I'm working out and all that stuff, but I get there, what keeps me there? So I told her, what do you want to do? She's like, run obstacle courses. So I was like, cool, do that. Because now you got to prepare for the obstacle course. It's going to make sure you stay in shape. So as I'm going through helping people, I'm building this program in my head, and I'm intuitively helping every single person and just run them through the same thing. So that's where I was with fitness coaching. Then I moved into nutrition, because I myself, I'm in all this shape, but I still go to the doctor the one time I go, because remember, I stayed the hell away from medical facilities. They're like, you got high cholesterol, you know, you're at risk of a heart attack. So I'm like, what? I do all this workout, I'm in this weight and shape, and you're telling me that I still have this risk? They're like, yeah. So that's when I dived in and got obsessed with nutrition, because that's what is weird about me compared to other people. When I see that something is worth it, I just dive into it and get obsessed about it to an extreme, to my wife and kids' detriment. I will get so obsessed about something till I know all the ins and outs of it. So I did that with fitness. Then in nutrition, I tried vegan, I tried pescatarian, I tried vegetarian, I tried keto, carnivore. I did all of those. And I would give them all their due time. I would give them about a year or two and see what the effects would be on my body. And I settled on the way that eating way that works best for me. I designed a program around that as well. And people would eat that way that I guided them to eat and heal from things like like fatty liver and arthritis. All these medical issues would start to disappear just by following that plan that I came up with. And I wasn't in any way a trained nutritionist or anything. I just did what was intuitive and help people on that. So I started coaching people on that. I called it health coaching, right? So I transitioned into that. Then I realized later on, as I'm still helping people. All of this is through Operation Dream Big still. And I'm still helping people. I realize that every single one of the people I'm working with, I'm putting together these workouts. I'm telling them how to eat. But the biggest thing they keep trying to spend every session talking to me about is this. Hey, Lewis, how do I take control of this? So I'm like, okay, fine. We'll work on that. But are you going to do your workout tomorrow? They're like, yeah, they didn't do the workout. They just wanted to talk about the mindset stuff and work through the emotions and all that. So I became a mindset coach. And then, I just said, why can't I just be able to build something that fits all that in? And I'm like, well, who would do that? Life coach. So I said, okay, I'll be a life coach and put together programs that heal people. Now, here's where I realized veterans are the people I'm going to need to help the most. And I just started saying, I'm going to help veterans now and become a veteran coach. I would talk to all the buddies that I deployed with, which I still talk to this day. We're all on Facebook. And I went through a veteran program called FitOps. I met a shit ton of amazing vets. And we did this amazing process where we unloaded our backpack, like all after the deployments and all that stuff, to be a veteran for so long and be surrounded by your brothers and sisters. They give you this badass hammer that has FitOps printed on the side, and you just spill your backpack. All the bullshit you dealt with, the good, the bad, the ugly. Some guys maybe talked about how they might have had to hurt a child while they were deployed, where they got blown up. You spill it all there, and you're in tears, and you're slamming this hammer down. You're just letting it all out. And then by the time you're done, you get up there, you stand there, and every single one of them just comes by, gives you a hug, congratulates you, shakes your hand, just tells you thank you for sharing your story. Every single night we would do that. And everybody would dread it, but then after it was over, we just felt fucking amazing. That saved my life, being able to do that. That really saved my life at that point. But I realized, talking to all these different vets that I would try to help, they would never be able to afford what the industry would charge for this help. That's the big issue. I'm like, these
Right.
guys really want to improve their lives. They want to feel okay 24/7, but they can't afford it.
And
And
you know what's crazy about that is insurance will not cover
oh, yes.
that
Tell
kind
me
of stuff.
about it,
But
man.
it doesn't cover things to keep you alive, that would
Yep.
keep, because it's going to keep you out of the medical. It's going to keep you having to go get to the doctors. That's
hmm
the one thing that really drives me shit crazy about
They don't.
our
They don't cover like the pre-care, the stuff that's going to keep you good and healthy.
preventative maintenance type stuff. They're only worried about when the shit
Pre-care.
happens. Let's give them a little band-aid for it too. We're not even
Yep.
going to give you something to fix it. We're just going to
hmm
give you these pills that will just help
Yep.
you through it. You can still eat
Yep.
all the shit you want, but here's a pill.
Yep. Pills and pills and pills, man. It's like the army is saying, they're like, just drink water. Oh, you busted your leg, drink water.
Motrin and water, bro. Here you
Yep.
go.
Yep. And so that's what I was running into, man. I have this thing where I can tap into the pain that they're feeling. And so I'll message a guy and I'll ask an innocent question like, how you doing? I know there's a lot of pain and they just spill it. Like, man, this is I'm going through all this. I'm getting divorced. My wife has left me. I still have my kids here. I don't know how I'm gonna make it through tomorrow, let alone pay the bills. This is what I'm running into as a coach who charges people looking to help. And so at that point, this year, I made that decision where I'm like, I got to do something different, because for the last 8 years, I've amassed all this expertise. I can get a person to where they feel okay in like 21 days, just have them feeling something more better than where they were before in 21 days. And then from there, they just keep going with it. I have all these tools and tactics that will fit into everybody's life, but I don't feel like I'm helping the right group of people with that. And so I'm like, who needs the most help? Who have I been avoiding? And every time I think about helping veterans, I'm like, well, that organization I went to that helped me a couple of years ago, they're doing a good job at that. I don't want to try to compete with them. There's no way I could fit into that. So I have that self-doubt and all that going on. And at a certain point, I just said, no, man, there needs to be more of that. And so I said, what can I do? how can I help more people to feel all right, feel okay? And I said, the best way is to teach them how I learn intuitively. Give them all the tools, give them the process, and let them pick and choose what they're going to fit into their life so that overall, the goal being they stay healthy and happy for the rest of their lives. Doesn't matter what happens. I've had clients where shit hits the fan. Like I had a client who lost his girlfriend became pregnant and then had a miscarriage, and his mental health was already shit, and then that happened. But he's like, "Oh, you taught me how to breathe properly. You taught me this, you taught me that." So I just sat down and did what I know, and I'm good. I'm okay with it. I'm able to be there for her. And then other guys, it's just weird what people achieve with those things that you teach them. So I said, how can I give that to people? And that's when I settled on taking my business, Operation Dream Big, and turning it into a nonprofit where I'm going to vet people and bring them in, and they're going to have access to an entire online curriculum that they can say, I'm struggling with ADHD. Here's the whole run through, videos, guides, actionable steps on how to make sure this is never a problem for me again. Like I did. I destroyed my ADHD. I had issues with social anxiety, but I'm here talking to you right now. So clearly I destroyed that too. Everything I struggle with, I'm able to break down, find a pattern, and then teach other people how to get through that. And that's why I'm like, okay, that's what makes me a good coach. I go through the shit, but then I expertly find ways to get through it, get over it and remember those lessons that I learned enough that I can teach other people. And so I said, okay, Operation Dream Big will be a nonprofit. And what I will do to make this manageable is I'll create online curriculum videos designed and curated by me, where everybody just logs in. They can pick the path they want to go on. They follow these videos. They start to heal. They get the aftercare that the fucking military was supposed to give them when they stepped out the door. Because that's where I was. I was lost, bro. Like I had to figure out how to go and get this job. I had to figure out all this stuff. And
100%.
naturally, I would always think about how can I help somebody else do this. So my first year out, I spent a lot of it helping my other veteran buddies get jobs too. I'm like, okay, I cracked the resume code. Let me help them do that. So it's like all along the way, God or whoever you believe in is like trying to show you you're meant to help vets. You're meant to help vets. See, this guy's coming to you for help. This guy's coming to you. And I'm like, nah, I'm just going to be a fitness coach here, or I'm going to try to start this business licensing inventions, or I'm going to do all this random stuff. But it would always just come right back around to coaching people. And then when the vets started coming and they couldn't afford the services, I had to face that dilemma, and I talked to people and they weren't veterans. Number one, I realized that after they gave me their answers, is like, if they can't afford it, they're not going to stick with it, like that.
Right.
You have to pay attention, which to a certain extent I understand. But there are I was one of them. I couldn't afford half the shit that I learned the last 8 years, but I committed and learned and figured it out. And I'm like, there are people like me out there that
Yeah.
really truly want to be healthy and feel all right and impact their family and everything, but they just don't have the money. And they shouldn't be faulted for that. They should be given what they need to feel healthy. And so that's where I went with it. I said, okay, I'm going to convert this to a nonprofit. I'm still working on all the training and videos and stuff like that. And that's where you found me on TikTok. I said, where can I start doing this in mass? Because on TikTok, I have all those followers, but it's been an evolution between the fitness and all the other different things. And I said, now on, I'm speaking to veterans. And then I just start giving the game and giving the business on there. And it's kind of crazy because other people in the space, I'm not going to mention names, but they're like, oh, you shouldn't be giving this away. You should not be telling people about this. They should have to pay for this information. And I'm like, no, man, people need to learn this stuff. People need to understand this. Are we in this to help people, or are we in this to just get rich off the backs of the ones that can afford it and let everybody else go to shit? So that's where I'm at, man. I'm in it to help as many veterans as I can. And until I can get that website and everything launched, get all these videos recorded, edited, and all that, I'll just get on TikTok every day and talk. Just be honest and legit. And everything I talk about is only stuff that I've experienced and dealt with, or stuff that I've helped other people through. So every single video, in some way, form, or fashion, I've seen the results of what it is and all that.
So let's take a look. I mean, I loved watching through your videos.
Yeah.
And bro, you must live somewhere it's cold. You know, you're out here in short sleeve shirt in the daggone snow, bro. Here we go. So I was like, damn, man, this fool's not even shivering.
Yeah.
So
So you
let's check this out.
been trying to figure out what you want to do now that you are out of the military, but you have no clue, and you don't think that what you did when you were in the military translates over to anything. What I want you to understand is all that training you did, within that is a lot more than just your MOS or your job, right? What I realized is you got to change your mindset around it and understand that you are valuable, not just because of your training, but because of who you are. And who you are was just sharpened with more training and skills. Now, how do you get down to the brass tacks of it? How do you get down to what skills are going to be something that you can perceive as valuable? Just understand what you really did. You were part of a powerful team, one of the greatest teams on earth, someone would argue. So you're a team builder. Leadership skills, discipline, attention to detail. Some would argue that some people didn't have attention to detail when you were in, but you have it in space, trust me, any day. You have all of these powerful skills, and the only thing stopping you from recognizing that is your perception of it. You know, there's no way to translate my job over when maybe I just have to think outside of the box with what other skills I got from doing that job and serving with my brothers and sisters. So how do you do that? How do you practically figure out what your value to the marketplace, to starting a business, to solving a problem is? Sit down with a piece of paper, number it from 1 to 10. Yes, I'm giving you the steps. Do it now. Number it from 1 to 10. And then write out your skills, but write out the skills from this place. As you write each one, close your eyes and picture a moment or memory where you used it. If it was leadership, picture where you dragged a friend out of harm's way, you know. Attention to detail. Picture how you recognized mechanical issues on your vehicle in the motor pool that could have drastically affected things when everybody started to drive off. You know, picture those different things, because this is more than just words on a paper. This is about developing a feeling of confidence within yourself. When you're confident, you approach things differently. You see solutions, not problems. Share this with somebody who seems like they're down and out, especially my veterans. All right.
Yep.
Bro, you know, man, there's something about you, dude, that just immediately attracts me to you, like in
I
terms
appreciate that.
of as a leader, bro. And you speak good, man. You come from a good place too, and it's very relatable,
Yep.
Especially from a veteran standpoint.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate
Lewis,
that.
I see you doing big things, bro.
Yep. I don't.
You were
That was the
born
thing
for
too.
this, man. You were born for this, bro. And
Yeah, that's crazy that you say that, because I just made that realization 2024. I'm like, the whole time I'm running away. I'm kind of successful in whatever band you would think, but like I'm running away from my purpose. What is my purpose in life? And that's what I started this year.
because it
Like,
keeps coming back to you, bro. I mean, and
because,
it's hitting you in your face, man. I think, and you speak in a way I can't express it, bro. You give me goosebumps. You definitely hit a nerve for me, that in a good way,
yeah, that's
where I want to listen. I want to look through more of the videos. I mean, when I was looking through them, I mean, I was just like, man, damn, this guy is
Yep.
legit. You know what I mean? And That's why I really wanted to bring you on and showcase you, bro. Like, I need other veterans to go check you out as well. You're good, man, and you're what we need,
Yep.
because a lot of us made a lot of mistakes right off the rip. We started off on a bad foot getting out.
Yep.
You know, how much better of our lives would have been if we would have started off on a good foot when we
Exactly.
got out, right? Instead of wasting 20 years or so, of time. You
Exactly.
know,
I spent almost 7 years before I really got close, and then I hit that rock bottom. So I went that whole time just not realizing how much shit I was in
right,
until
bro,
it's
because you had
late.
a lot of false things there that made you believe that you were doing good. Like you were doing good
Yep.
at work, but you were suffering in
Yep.
your home life,
Yep.
right? So, when we're unbalanced, sometimes when we're doing really good over here, we think,
Mhm.
it's all good. We're killing it.
Yep.
But you got to find that balance in life, bro. Like where you could kill
Agreed.
it here, but you got to go back home and kill it
Mhm.
with your family too. They need you
Yep.
the most, right? At the end of the
And
day.
that's the funny part too. When everybody struggles, they have that. Everybody has this one place where they're like, I'm feeling like shit. I'm gonna focus on this area. Oh, I'm successful here. All this muck back here, I'm just gonna ignore it. Just
Yep,
focus on it.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
hey, brother, I appreciate you coming on
no
and
problem.
talking about all the things you've talked about. I for sure will be in touch with you.
Okay.
You always have me too as a resource to get your word out.
And likewise,
I
man.
have a lot of podcast buddies would love to have you on as well. I think you're great for the community. You're great for the world. You're a great human being, bro. And is there any last words that you like to say to anybody? Or
The last thing I'd like to say, man, is just the biggest struggle that I had that I want people to understand and get over and be okay with is vulnerability. That's it, man. Do not be afraid to be vulnerable because only two things can happen in that situation. Somebody's going to show you who they really are, and you may not like what you see, but you'll understand going forward, move away from them. Or the people around you are going to become closer to you and be more receiving of you, and you're going to get what you need because you were vulnerable. So there's just no way to lose with it. You might say, well, oh, it's going to hurt if this person rejects me because I was vulnerable. But in the long run, you realize, thank God I figured this shit out now, not
right.
2 years later, And that's what I'll say. If you're watching this and you vibe with the videos, you vibe with them because of that simple fact that I'm okay talking about the shit as much as I talk about the victories, and you can relate to it. So be that way in your life too.
Yeah, bro. I can't express how much I love the authenticness. I can't even say the word, but you're authentic, dude, and you're just a real person, bro. And that's what I appreciate. Like I said, watching the videos as well. Um, I've learned a lot about myself in the past couple
Yeah.
of years, and a lot of it is accepting and being vulnerable and like all those type of things that you got to move forward. And
Yep.
so don't be stubborn as a young person and all that
Mhm.
stuff, right? But hey, brother, once again, thank you so much for coming
No
on.
problem, man.
I can't express to you how blessed I am to have met you, come across you,
Same. Same.
your videos. I'll be sharing you out with everybody because I really think that you have a great word for a lot of people that need to hear it, especially right
Grateful.
now. So,
Grateful for
all right, brother. Well, thank you. And once again, we'll be in touch. All right.
that.
Just hold tight. All right, friends and family. Well, hey guys, let me tell you what, Lewis Stockley, what a great guy. I found him on TikTok. You guys go look him up. He is a very inspirational guy. He can help you with a lot of things that we go through on our day to day, and it resonates with you, especially with as a veteran. A lot of you veterans out there, if you're struggling, especially you young veterans, don't wait don't waste that time, man. I can tell you that I regret a lot of that. That's one thing I regret is not fixing my shit earlier in my life and allowing it to drag on and ruining relationships. But anyhow, I hope everybody's having an amazing week, amazing day. Make sure you guys are out there making the best out of it. Don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. Until next time. Arr.